Hey, greetings everybody. Lich King here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On the last episode, we did the second level in the Alliance campaign for the Blood Elves, the Frozen Throne. In it, we saw basically the Alliance kind of leave the Blood Elves out to dry, like hang them out to dry. But they said, "We need you to defeat this massive Scourge force, but also we're taking all of our troops. You get no support, and we're taking your guys too." So they left him in a suicide mission, and they managed to survive and beat it, but they had to team up with the Naga to do so. It was a fun mission, but it did take a decent amount of time, which is fine. I think these missions have become a little more complicated. They are I do like them, but I feel a little bad when I'm doing them on the Let's Play videos because they're so long. They're hour and a half long every time, just because of kind of the different elements that each mission has. So stay a while and listen as we push forward right now in sort of an interlude before we do the third mission in that campaign. These are not, we could probably continue to play another couple missions, but rather than just all of a sudden we're at the undead campaign, which is really what Warcraft lore cares about. Like, yeah, we need to figure out why the Blood Elves became the Blood Elves, why they're not part of the Alliance, why they have a presence on Outland, why they joined the Horde. All of these things are important, and these missions sort of fill that in, but it's not as compelling. Even the lore that we see in the game, it's not as compelling as what they kind of retcon when they write Chronicles and some of this other stuff here. But the third campaign is very important, as it establishes some other important things. So while all this is going on and kind of leading up to the Blood Elves joining their new ally or master or whatever, we have this backstory stuff. So let's read the first one. It's called Civil War in the Plaguelands, and we'll read a little bit more of these things too in the next couple episodes. The Lich King had survived Illidan's Stormrage's attack, but he would never be the same. His essence was bleeding through the crack in the frozen throne. As his power escaped, his hold on the Scourge weakened. His once oppressive will slowly faded from the minds of many undead in Lordaeron. They felt something familiar returning to them, something they had lost in death. Free will. Okay, so this is important because, one, we saw that attack, but in the game, they don't really talk about. All it is a failed attack, and Illidan says, yeah, I was trying to defeat the undead. He never even specifically says in the game that he was going for the Lich King, not at this point. We also read, when we read Arthas, there was this moment when Arthas felt a weakening of his own power, and the Banshee Queen had her free will. This is all tied into this, so we're kind of weaving these narrative threads together some more. Most of the undead were perplexed by this change. They wandered the fallen kingdom in confusion, unsure of what to do, but there were other Scourge who saw the Lich King's weakness as an opportunity for revenge. Among them was the Banshee Sylvanas Windrunner. Ever since her death, Sylvanas had thrashed against the Lich King's control. Her efforts had always been fruitless. The Lich King's will had been as strong as steel, and the entity had forced her to make war against the living. Her hatred of the Lich King and his foremost servant, Arthas Menethil, had swelled. Vengeance and rage consumed her soul, but she'd had no means to channel them at her enemies. Now she did. Sylvanas rallied other free-willed undead and gave them a purpose. They would never again have the lives that had been stolen from them, but they would have revenge. Their first victim would be the creature who had devastated Sylvanas' beautiful kingdom, he who had ripped away her future and made her into a monster, Arthas. Sylvanas wasn't the only one seeking to destroy the Death Knight. Varamathras and the other Dreadlords had learned of the Lich King's weakness. They took control over part of the Scourge with the hope of eventually launching an invasion into Northrend to vanquish the Lord of the Undead. Much like Sylvanas, they knew that eliminating Arthas was the first step toward this goal. Arthas was in no condition to quell these uprisings. As the Lich King's power faded, so too did his own. The once feared and nearly invincible Death Knight found himself hunted on multiple fronts by Sylvanas and the Dreadlords. Though Arthas was willing to fight, he had a more pressing purpose. The Lich King had commanded him to abandon Lordaeron. The entity needed all those Scourge that were still loyal to him to be at his side in Northrend, for he knew it was only a matter of time before Kil'jaeden struck at the frozen throne. The Lich King was right to expect a reprisal from his enemies, but it would not come from the Dreadlords or Sylvanas Windrunner. It would come from Outland. Okay, and let's just tie what has happened. In the Arthas novel, they mentioned that he left. He being Arthas himself, left to Northrend. This is why. In the Sylvanas novel, I think that's what we'll read next, the chapter from that, and we'll read some more in the Arthas novel too. We'll kind of see these events start to unfold. It also explains why Sylvanas will initially work with the Dreadlords, and it will set us up for the missions to come, which are going to take place in the Outland. So we've got to do a little bit to get the Burning Elves there, but why Illidan and the Burning Elves, his allies, all these people, kind of why they're going to go to Outland, which we already read the why, but how they're going to use their position in the Outland to attack the Lich King. So the stage is being set for some interesting things to come. But for now, we have another episode in the pipe, 5x5. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching and for listening, and I will see you next time on Lore of Warcraft.